And in this podcast I want to offer a little bit more in introduction to Julian of Norwich, to briefly introduce her book Revelations of Divine Love and share something of her spirituality that is revealed in it. Julian's Revelations of Divine Love are believed to be the first writings by a woman in English. They contain her descriptions of visions that she had when she was so ill that she was thought to be on the point of death. These visions of God and of Christ's passion so affected her that once recovered, she devoted much of her prayer and meditation to fathoming their meaning. She found much that inspired her and much that challenged her understanding of life and faith. The result is a book that contains real prayed theology that is inspiring and refreshing, speaking very powerfully to life today. So what were the visions that Julian had? Well, she writes that there were 16 in total, 15 of which took place at the height of her illness, and one which followed shortly afterwards. Julian summarizes them in this way. This is a revelation of love which Jesus Christ, our endless bliss, made in 16 showings, of which the first is about his precious crowning of thorns. And in this was contained and specified the Blessed Trinity, with the incarnation and the union between God and a person's soul, with many fair revelations and teachings of endless wisdom and love, in which all the revelations which follow are founded and connected. I'd like to draw out a bit further some key elements to Julian's visions. Firstly, that sense of Jesus' passion and the depth of his experience in the crucifixion that was motivated by his love for all humanity. Secondly, the awareness of human life and the range that it embraces, from joyful well-being to profound woe, and how the sin and temptation in the world has been overcome by Christ. Then there's something of the nature of God, the sense of the Trinity, of God who is sovereign over all, and that God's desire is for all to know the joy and peace that is in him. There's also the strand of the nature of prayer and how it is that the Trinity dwells in our souls. And lastly, the sense that all of this is fulfilled and a fulfillment of God's purposes that ultimately will be known in the bliss of heaven. So we see how Julian covers the significant themes in theology, this sense of what the nature of God in relation to humanity is, and how love through Jesus is the expression of that, and how the bliss of heaven can be connected with. But I've already spoken about how her writings wrestle with big questions. She finds it difficult to reconcile the profound love and hope in God that her visions give her with her experience of life and the church. It's in this that we gain insight into Julian's spirituality. Her writing reveals 20 years of prayerful wrestling with the tension of this paradox. And her writing, the text that we have, has two parts. The first part, the short text, is a record of her visions, probably from her journal written up fairly soon after she had them, that she could share with others. And then the second part, the long text, which is a repetition of the visions, but this time with much more depth of reflection and articulation of insights that have come from the 20 years of meditating on them. And it's in this long text that we see most of all the sense of her spirituality. And there are several notable aspects to this. At the heart of Julian's spirituality is a longing for God and a devotion to Christ. And this inner orientation of her soul shines through all that she writes. But Julian is not overawed by the love of God and the profundity of Christ's passion. If anything, she's emboldened by her experience in this to engage in a very active and, if not challenging, dialogue with God about the paradoxes or contradictions that she sees and cannot resolve. While her vision gave her a profound sense of hope in God's love and his redemptive work, her feet are solidly on the ground of human experience, of suffering and of sin, and of a deep compassion for this experience of humankind. She is a deeply humane person, a deeply devoted person, and a deeply patient person who, out of all of that, speaks with a freshness and offers us insights, often painting powerful word pictures that avoid glib answers or theological mumbo-jumbo to help us to understand the profundity of God's love in our lives. So I am left with the sense of Julian, not just as a person of prayer and deep spirituality, but as a theologian. She is a very sophisticated theologian, not so much because of years of study of the scriptures and of theological thinkers, but because her theology comes out of long prayed experience of God. Theology, the word, literally means words about God. Julian's theology comes from her putting into her own words what she has experienced in her relationship with God. In that way, she reminds us all that we can be, in fact, that we are theologians when we put into our words our experience of God. Two books I'd commend to you if you're interested in reading more of Julian. Firstly, the little book Enfolded in Love, published by DLT, is a great collection of extracts of her writing. And then secondly, All Shall Be Well by Ellen Sanner. In a recent translation of Julian's text, she offers us useful notes that help to bridge the 700-year cultural and linguistic differences that there are as we engage with Julian's writing. Through Holy Week, we'll draw upon Julian each day to help us reflect and pray as we devote ourselves to journeying with Jesus in his passion. I look forward to sharing this with you.